But as the only other female speaker on the homecoming agenda, I have something really special to share, Karen. So I had the blessing to, do we have that handy? Okay, so why don't we show it? I want you to see Karen and her lovely nurturing self. This is the picture she chose to send me. All right, there you go. Now, out of fairness, I'm not going to show everybody else's young pictures without mine. So Joey, if we can scroll down just a moment, I am going to be fair. So you can see Karen is there with her dolls, and I am there in my very awkward glasses. And my 2 hearing aids taped to my head so lovingly by my mother so that I would not have them all fall off. So we can go away from those old memories. But I chuckled when Karen sent me the picture. She says, you can pick these. And it had her holding the dolls. And the reason I know about Karen is because I mentioned to you, we can go ahead and hide those, Joey. We can, please, right, Karen? Please, right? This nurturing side of Karen is something that is very powerful. Well, I mentioned to you that John Bonsall was our former president who did 2 years of remarkable work here. He also had worked with Leo for a number of years and had a long history with the work. He briefly told me as I was working on the Russell experience about this woman named Karen Elkins, who stays in touch with him. And he sent me a link to a magazine, online magazine, of this woman all the way in the Northwest who had integrated nature with Walter Russell's work. And I have to tell you, looking at it online, it was a piece of art. It was remarkable. And so I reached out to her and I said, Karen, I was so inspired by what you did. Can we print them for the Russell experience? And so we actually have some of these out on the concierge table, so keep an eye out. But what I want you to notice, and Karen has a deep understanding of the science. Well, you have her bio. She has worked with so many experts around the world, dedicates her time to the upliftment of humanity, of doing a number of Science to Sage magazine editions, helping people see things differently. Part of the power of the feminine, of what the feminine brings to the world, is the understanding of integration, of synthesis, of nurturing, of being able to see the connections. And so as she takes you through, because I've already seen much of it, as she takes you through the experience today, I want you to really just allow yourself to enjoy what you're about to see. She's going to bring it to life. For those of you that are seasoned students, you're going to see it in a very different way. For our science lovers, I want you to begin to see how the feminine brings it to the forefront in a very different way. And for anyone that's new, you're in for a real treat. Please join me in welcoming Karen Elkins. Thank you.
Are you going to put the, you start it? Okay. The idea, when I came here in November, Kim asked me to come and be part of the workshops, and I did. And she asked me if I would speak to the idea of the holographic nature of our universe and how it tied into Walter Russell's work. And so for me, this is sort of like the journey of, it's not, there we go. It is, I want you to sort of feel that this is like, a lot of us know that there's a magnetic field within our universe that encases the earth, but it also is you. It is also every cell of a blood drop and every dewdrop of a water has a field that goes around it. It has a north and a south pole. When I came, and we did one of the experiences with Kim, this magnificent thing, has anybody looked into this? So if you look into this, this was like an aha moment for me. And the aha moment for me in that sense, for some reason, oh, I know why. It's my fault. There we go. This was the part that said, let's open the science in the box. Let's look at the mystery of what it is. And in here, you kind of see the one universe, the one force, and the one substance. But we're going to take you on a journey that shows you some of it. So when I kind of looked at it, you realize that it was nothing but infinity sitting in a box. It was like mirrors and mirrors. It was like looking at the fabric of space. And then you begin to realize that there's mirrors within mirrors. And you think, well, how does this lattice work? This is Walter Russell's crystalline lattice work. All matter is crystalline, all matter is frozen light. So there's 7,000 lines of light. So I'm going to connect all the dots for you to see based on Walter Russell's work. So when we look at how light shines, when it comes down, imagine that it's, again, that vortex is spinning. There's your seeing how it gets woven and how the carbon particles basically fall from space into our space. When I do the magazine, as Kim said, I meet an awful lot of people. And this was one person by the name of Don Estes. And Don Estes, with another guy named Randy Stack, took all the platonic solids. So for you who don't know what platonic solids are, there are basically 5 shapes that create all of nature that weave together. And what you see is when these lines move, they create what we call a lattice and digital art. So we're nothing but particles in a wave, sort of transformed. This is how matter is sort of made. And this is how, when I looked at how does that square become a circle, I thought, okay, within the sphere encompassed it is the cube. And it's like, okay. So then all of a sudden I could see the weaving of the circles. And it began to say, okay, I get that. Now I see the circle and the square. And then you see the lattice. So this is based on the weave of creation was based on the work of the top image is what they call the E8 theory. And the E8 theory, very much like Walter Russell's work, is a lattice of light. And how from this lattice of wisdom of this whole matrix comes the seed of ideas and intelligence, from particles to atomic matter, all the way down to the carbon of a diamond, which is number 4. There's just a scale on Walter Russell's work. 4 is carbon, and then one side goes up and one side goes down. But you can see how beautiful that lattice sort of works. And we wonder, from that lens, which we'll see coming up, there's a crystalline matrix that interplays with energy and light. And how in it is this incredible matrix of how beautifully it's orchestrated, and what quite the symphony it is. Uh-oh, the little clickers decided to rebel. There it goes. So within that, imagine that seed, and in that seed is us, is a seed of an idea that gets birthed into creation. And you can see it comes from the one. It comes from the whole. It's the whole idea. And then you can imagine it, maybe, this is Walter Russell's sort of periodic table too. It's a cosmic supercomputer manifesting the unified cosmic intelligence, so that you begin to see how it's one. And as we go through, I'll show you how that really does work. Oops, let me go back one. Oh, it's going forward instead of backwards. Uh-oh. Can I go backwards? Can I go back to here? Can I do it myself? Will it take me there? I'm looking and it's not taking me back. I want to go back to here. That one. And we're already up here. Do you want me to see if it goes this way? It kind of feels like it's stuck.
It does feel stuck.
I tried that too.
Wow. How'd you do that?
Let's give parents some breathing room. If you all just chat with your neighbors for 50 seconds. Okay.
It's kind of weird. Should we start it and stop it?
Yeah, let's try that.
Is it because it's so dense with images?
Yeah, things stopped.
Okay, you got, can you see it? It's okay. Force reload.
Yeah, this is a. Is this your?
Huh?
I want to.
Do you want to go back to the share and present?
Yeah.
And then should I get it to the place where we were? Let's go. Right, we'll start here.
Share. Present.
At the presenter's view.
You know how to do this. You're awesome.
You taught me.
Start view. Go button.
Do we have to slide it over? Yeah. Okay. You can go to. Is that not working all of a sudden?
It's not. I wonder why that is.
Okay, it did. Now it did. It got unstuck. Okay, we want to go back. Do I need to use this? No, I think we're right there. That's where we were. That's it, right there. Okay, is that now working?
I think it is.
Okay. You know what? I'm good. Yeah. You would think I had frozen up, but I hadn't. So we'll go from where the supercomputer was, and then I thought to myself, this is God's, how we move particle and wave, how we work in the field, and how he beams us down like Scotty. I call this God's toolbox of particles in wave. When you think of things solidified in nature, we also often think of evolution. And evolution, in a lot of ways, doesn't match a lot of things. But if we look at it as condensed light, as Walter would think, everything is compressed light, then it gives a rise to the idea of our physical world being of light. And if I look at what Dr. Gerald Pollack, who did the fourth phase of water, there was a particular absorption of energy at a particular wavelength that absolutely is characteristic of the structured water. So when you begin to look at frequencies working, and some of you are familiar with the idea of cymatics, how waveforms work, and then you can begin to see how particles move and how they change shape. What you don't see there is that little guy down there. I put a turtle down there because you could see the same patterns, and then there's the E8 theory. And again, through the process of optical amplification, stimulating through electromagnetic radiation, we begin to see this is like a tunneling of compressed light and how this would work. So you can see that these layers are like, instead of, we talked about how things weren't moving, we can see how through this compression, these things sort of work. Let's see. Then I looked at the idea of the lens. When I go through the museum part, what struck me one time is, oh, that looks like an eye, that looks like an end. And if you actually imagine a torus field, at the top it's coming in and at the bottom it's going out. So there's always this energy flow. If you actually imagine that looking down like an eyeball where things are literally coming into light, you can kind of then see all those compressions going back down, 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 but it's sucking light in. And then you can imagine there's the plus and the minus. So it absorbs light and it also releases light. So I'm trying to, when I looked at the lens, and you look at this, there's one thing that you know, we think, oh, as it moves, this is how your eye works. Your eye works with the same thing, how it picks up light. But the other thing that I kind of think is interesting, that you have to look at it when you look at this, you got to look at all of these different angles in there. You might just see the two cones, but what you not looking at is all the other angles, and all those other angles make up other mathematical sequences. As it moves, everyone has a different geometry and a different way of seeing the world, which I'll show you later too. I'm kind of giving you a way. This is like if you look at a kaleidoscope, because that's how a laser works. Laser light, that one focused point, works like the kaleidoscope. So through the eye, transmitted is an image formed at a nodal point, which is where that one laser point, like a kaleidoscope of mirrors, the eye has the ability to focus light, to make the geometric shapes of life, which the brain and the body record. So holographically, good little S in there. But you can see the weaving of how the different lines start intersecting and moving. So we all see the triangle, and I love this saying, verily I say, every wave encompasses every other wave unto the one, and the many are within the one, and all the way down to the last wave of me. So we're all that light. There's nothing that we aren't. Everything that we are is light. We come from the rainbow, and through our own lens and our own vision, we actually decide what we see, what we put in our world, which I think Matt kind of talked to the other day. And this is how our world is shaped. But God is in all of us, because we're all light. And then I have to take I always have to take the pieces of these cubes apart and imagine how they work. And when I found this, you can see all the different angles. You even see the Merkava body in there. You see all the different kind of shapes. So what we've got is the mirrors. And in the mirrors, you have all those fantastic lenses, north, south, east, west, all moving like a gyroscope into, give you one multitudes of geometry, lenses, and points of view. So when we look at lines and stuff, the one thing when I've done my own book, and the book basically, when you look at the lines and you look how we weave through the universe, we literally come from the fold. Everybody's body here is unique based on their resonance and their frequencies, but energy exists as intelligence in form, bound together to inform. All of our shapes, all of our everything, you can see how these lines of create our reality. Then we go into the idea, when you think of the circle and the lens, imagine it as a laser does, a holograph does, it actually records data. So the laser lights are capable of recording multiple images in the same areas, utilizing light at different angles. The other thing, when we think of that, that's how we get, when you think of crystals, that's how we record information. That's what we use in our watches. So crystals have a way of keeping time. So the fact that we live in a holographic universe that keeps time, keeps record of you, is not I mean, that's kind of how it is. So when you look at this, I think when Walter Russell said the error of science lies in shutting the creator out of creation. So in all the biblical texts, in ancients, whether you're looking at Eastern to West, they all say we come from the ocean. We all come from light. We all come from the same thing. Oh, don't do that to me again. You can behave. I know you can. Oh, come on. Maybe if I take off my shoes, I'll be more grounded. Oh, there it goes. Okay. I wanted to show you this. So when you think of this one piece of glass, this is us. We're all part of the whole. We're all part of that one source, one substance, and one science. So it's a way of looking at life as a very holistic point of view. And what I'm going to show you, the one question I had, I always wanted to know how God created. That was my curiosity as a kid, not that I've ever taken a science class. And then one day I was looking through Wikipedia, which I know is not the best source, but I did do it. You can see that the only difference between water, air, and fire is the density. So as Walter Russell says, the one is divided into many substances, known as the elements of matter. So when we start looking at that, it's, oh, that's it? So what makes matter, water, particles, and light? That's it. So when you start looking at all of these things, you begin to understand that when you look at all this, there's your water, your particles, you can see that they have the same operating system. They all vortex, they all go into sort of a plasmic sort of state, and they all go through gas. So it doesn't make any difference. Any one of these materials is basically your recycling system. And that's why it is said you are life without end. We go from liquid solids to gases. And everything is nothing but a change of state. So all celestial bodies, it was even mentioned yesterday, I think it was mattered, basically when we looked at gas planets and fire planets and water planets, celestial bodies are also composed of these same elements that actually operate you. So when you think of your own self, your heart is a pump, it's the water. Your air is your oxygen, it's your spirit. And the fire and the dendrites is your desire and your reason to be. So all of these things are operating the same thing. So when he says one reflects the other, we are all meant to be heaven on earth. We are holographic. It's a reflection of light. If you look at what the sky is doing, you can see that that's water, but it looks like the sky. And it looks like plasma fields in the ocean. When you actually can take the time to walk and notice nature, you just realize it's everywhere, it's everything, and it's really very consistent. So the elements regulate your system. Water is the canvas for life. I will show you that. Air is the spirit of which you express. Fire is your desire. Earth is your ground, and heaven is where you descend from. So this is I've done many issues on water, and Gerald Parlick has guided me many, many, many times. And he sent me to this guy, George, who's done these images of water. So instead of just even looking at something abstract, I really want you to see the interesting thing. I remember when George says, Karen, but I don't even know where that light comes from. But water charges like a battery. So water orders energy, and from the form of magnetic radiation, this looks like a circuit. This is like a whole circuit coming, and there's your battery. So water is literally contains all the elements. And I'm going to show you how it orders. So this is also water, and then you begin to see the structure. And so when you look at the hexagram, if you look at it at a different angle, it's still a square. And it begins to make your graphene, which begins to make life. So water connects the dots, water, and then you have water in oxygen. I love these pictures. This man's work is genius. And this, I just wanted to show you the square. So this again goes back to the box. I wanted to teach you back to the box because it's still the prism, it's still angles and particles connected in sort of chemistry. So the hexagon is charge design. When you look at electricity, that's kind of how it goes, and it's carbon, and that's what makes us. That's when I interviewed John one time, and John said, we're carbon, Karen. Okay, I'm trying to hit it in the right spot. All right, this is also water. So now you can see that water starts taking on what we call dendritical structures. These are the things that fire through life. So when you're walking, and I'll show you, when you begin to walk, you'll see this in trees and biology. In your own hands. It's the way things discharge. This one, and it takes on memory. So this is a Dr. Wayman Ho, who since passed, but she basically showed that we were crystalline structures, our bodies, and everything we've done to in nature to design energy is everything based on who and what we are. And that one has the cross came from a well, a Christian well, and I can't remember where that one came from, but that water is from the Alps. So when we look at what he talks about, matter is divided into solids and gases. Gases are solids going outward, and towards the heaven, and solids are going in, the gases are going inward. So solids are inward, that's what makes us condensed mass, and the gases when we go up and we look like a ghost. So now we're going to show you how the weave kind of goes. So we talked about this vortexing energy and its spin. This is Betty James' work on this side. That was kind of very helpful to me because I began to see through that. And if a lot of you have ever heard of the electric universe, you have anybody heard of the electric universe model? A lot of people who like Walter Russell work like the electric universe model, as would Tesla. So we begin to see the spinning of these vortexes, but it's not just we see this spin. I want you to remember, these are the planets, Saturn, Jupiter, and Neptune. This is the patterns they generate when they're actually moving around the sun. So the idea that everything is weaving, everything is geometry, everything is light, and all these frequencies are affecting us all the time. So that gives rise to the idea of astrology, if you like it or not, but it gives you the idea that as we dance through the cosmos, there are effects to a resonant, because when you listen to certain kinds of music, it resonates with you. Some is too loud, some is too soft, whatever, but it's whatever you're literally attuned to. And this just kind of gives you, I think it was when I was at the Electric Universe conference and I interviewed Kung Pop, he's the one who showed me, and that's when I never thought of the cosmos moving like that, but it does. So we're actually in a universe, and it is a sound system. So we're literally dancing in light, moving in light, in symphony with the entire universe. But then I want you to take it really personal. So we're talking about, again, the spheres and the geometry. So when we actually speak, I remember being in a class because I used to run a school for kids. And one of the science guys said to me, Karen, we speak in platonic solids. And that means we speak in geometry. And I thought to myself, that's kind of nuts. How does that happen? So Don Estes has created an instrument that actually shows what happens. But also when you look at cymatics, this is John Stuart Reed's work, and you begin to see that there's the bubble and there's the wave inside, and without the colliding of the bubbles, you wouldn't get light. So it's through the chemistry and geometry where we see our reality. This was interesting. So again, these are light waves that we send out. So not only do we speak in light, which is very cool. And then you really do begin to see that it is really one. I'm just not totally one with the button. Okay. Oh, I need one. Oh, can I go back to that one? Oh, please? I don't know if it'll let me. Let me try. I don't know. Has any of you guys heard of the work of Stan Tennant? Stan Tennant, when I was looking, and I wish I had that other slide, but Stan Tennant he had an epiphany that the Hebrew alphabet came out of a prism, and when you turned your hand, you could actually get the entire Hebrew alphabet, which means not only you speak through this tent, but as the triangle moves, you still have to remember there's that lens and circle underneath. So you're literally speaking into existence, which made me think, so here's his triangle, his tent of light. And in Walter's work, he said, if you only knew that your speaking was all in light and were lines in light. Stan Tennant's work shows you that. So he took that curve and your hand moves around, you actually get the geometry within the Hebrew alphabet. And that made me think of this, because here again, there's the angles that when you take these angles, which I'll show you soon, you will see the spinning of them and how it kind of works together. So Kim also asked me, but can you actually, Karen, add fractals? And fractals fit into this perfectly. So we actually walk in this field, and fractals came into our reality. It was in the 1800s that it was kind of brought to light, but there was a man named Mandelbrot who, I think it was around the 70s or 60s, brought it to fruition. And it is that everything is a triangle, based on a triangle and a repeating pattern. So I'm going to show you how that was. When we look at molecules, that was from a thing called the nemoscope, which was even better than Royal Rife's work, as far as that shows molecules arranging in tetrahedral structures. That's water arranging in tetrahedral structures, and light is also based on 3. So this is kind of the law of triangles. And when you start looking at how matter works, liquid, solids, and gases, as I showed you before, they basically recycle from one dense matter to another. So they're just one particle light. And again, you see the triangle, and then you see the spin. So that to me is where you understand that. And these triangles begin to create how they create your reality. And the person who actually used this work was Spielberg. When he did Star Wars, in order for him to do backgrounds, what he did is he actually configured mountains and everything else based on this geometry, which is kind of neat. So I have to be one with my force. Come on, you can do it. I know it can. There you go. So, and this is again, when you look at the snowflake, or how water moves, you can see that it goes from a particle to light to a wave, right? So that's just to show you nature itself. When we look at these dendritical structures, as I showed you before, as Nikola Tesla said, it's astounding, and the universe was created electric. So you see outer space. The second image up at the top is actually your biology. It's then you have a tree, you have a leaf, you have there's a sky, and you've got how it moves through the mountains. So when you actually go outside in nature and you start walking, you begin to see these structures in all of life. You can't miss them anymore. And then you actually realize there is one creator who's done a magnificent design. So when you think of the triangle, you have to see it moving. You have to see it kind of folding on itself. So when I look at Walter's work, I try to add dimension, I try to add life. Then you can see that creates your ear, it creates the fetus. And even dolphins and stuff all come that way. Plants come out that way. It's called the golden ratio. It's outspinning of life. Oh, there we go. And then I want you to understand this is also how the electric discharge moves. So electricity moves this to this to this. So it's a third, 2/3 and you can see the proportions. And the beautiful thing is your heart is the first thing to beat when you're a kid, when you're a baby in the womb. And so when we talk about the Heart Sutra and we talk about where the heart, it really begins in the heart. So when we look at the work of what we should do, it all comes from the very core of where we evolved from is the heart. You can see that same geometry is in your toes, in your ears, in your body, and it goes along with sort of Russell's law of ratios. And I want to say this is nothing new. This is as old as time, from Leonardo to, I look at, there's Walter Russell's period, crystallization, there's Leonardo's, but this pattern has gone everywhere from China to our lands here. And it basically is talking about the web of life and how things unfold. And everybody knew that life was sacred. Life was remarkable, and we come from the weave. And if you look at Walter's, we come from the weave of light. All right, this is the one where I had to stop. This is when I looked at, if you see the thing on the table there, that's when I began to see, when that square came out, I saw the periodic table. I had never seen that. I was just like, wow. So when you think of the prism, I didn't imagine that a periodic table could come out of a square, but it looks like it does. Okay. And then with this, when we're looking at, I just want chemistry, when we look at the periodic table, it goes left, right, left, right, left, right. And right through here, you'll see that the elements, there's the platonic solids. Here's how things kind of are the building block, but the triangles are the building block of all of chemistry. That's where it starts from. And when they get uneven and out of balance, they're on one side, they go into chaos, which is fractals, and then it goes back into balance when it gets back into order. But that way you can see that all of it's interconnected, which will come up again. So I wanted to show you this because it's not moving, but just the idea of the back and forth. Oh, we are. I might be able to. And so I'm going to do here's the idea of how the light is actually woven when you look at the three. That there's that spinning and the weaving. So man may weave the pattern of himself in light of me, and of his image in divided light of me. And then the sun sets up the bow of my many hues from divided light of me. So when we begin to see the weave, we begin to, let's see if it'll do it this way. No, oh, there it goes. Okay, I just need to make these guys work then. So when I look at the color and we look at the wave, there's, as Walter Russell says, it's all moving. Is it really anything but movement and structure? Everything is moving, nothing static. We're always making changes. And then I'm going to give it a go. There we go. And then when he talks about it, in the wave lies the secret of creation. So when you see that weaving going on inside that dimensionally, you can see what he meant by that. Everything you could see the face in the last image, which I think when I saw that, it was like, wow, that's just amazing. All right, if not, I'll go back to this is the other part that I think is really important to understand. I just finished an issue on the number 7. And what was very interesting is looking at the periodic table and the colors, looking at sound at 7, looking at the waveform. So when you're looking at the movement of the wave of how everything crystallizes from chemistry, which is crystalline structures, they all came out pretty much as 7s. And you realize when you look at the Bible and other things, 7 is a number of completion. So 7 is and I'll show you more, I think. So the transformation of light into matter and vice versa follows rhythmic patterns and cycles. You'll see all the waves and all of the things of Walter Russell's work. And the one thing I want to show is, remember that water is the canvas for life. So water contains the full range of octaves, and it is the most programmable substance on the planet, and it is a liquid crystal. And the other thing to think is there's only those 3 things. So everything you eat, drink, and everything is light, and I'll show you that too. So think about the interplay of divided light. Oops, and when we look at the different, it's thinking about it. You know what actually is kind of funny about that? Remember how they're talking about the pulsing lights? It's not what it should be doing. It should be actually transitioning between. But I think the plasma fields is one thing with this radiation, and how do you get the fire out of it? I think that was kind of, for me, was like, oh, I get it. There's the plasma, because that's kind of what gives charge to life. Let's see if that'll do it for me or not. Okay, so imagine that you're creating harmony, the fundamentals to the dynamic equilibrium between energy, light, and matter is this pulsing. So this is the idea that, oh, and maybe he doesn't want to do that. So, okay, we'll go here. It's connecting with the connection of the waves. And I want you to think about the idea of layers. So within the layers of Walter Russell's work, and we look at the universe, here's what we can look at when we think of divided light. When you look in space, when you look at your food, light is not static. It's always dynamic, and it's always vibrating into its own evolution. Whether you believe in chakras or not, there's your body system, there's the periodic table of Walter Russell, and you can see that the planets kind of mirror that. So all life is chemistry, light, sound, and crystallization of one form or another, and they all are interchangeable. It's God's creation. He's done a magnificent job doing it. This goes back to the idea of the field. So when you look at the layers of Walter Russell's work, from the galaxies to the earth, to you, to your heart, to a water drop, we are nothing but fields within fields within fields. And that's one aspect. But then, oh, darn. Okay, so what that one showed, that one showed that not only layers from the sun to the earth 7, but the layers of the earth to the core are 7, and the layers of your skin are 7. So you can see that there's a magnificent design to it. This is my friend Krishna Madhapa, who worked with the product called the GDV device. And this is to show you that all what you eat is alive. Plants are alive. This is the light essence that we just don't see. So when we look at this holographic, we just don't see the light. There's a spectrum of something we're just totally missing. But it actually, these ones move. This is a tulip, and that's, we should have reverence for life. And this is interesting. They did an experiment with testing. This is a plant not loved on the bottom, and this is a plant loved on the top. So if you got to remember, we're all made from the same stuff. And that same stuff is light. And we often always giving and sharing that light. Whether you think it or not, when you pass by the plant, plants always love the music. There's lots of stuff relative to that. I don't want to be missing. Okay, come on. Will it play or not play? Oh, okay, there it goes. That shows you he took that P and he put it on the GVD device, and he's showing you the light that's actually coming out of that P. You don't see it, but that's it. So when you actually think of geometry and color, think of the color wheel. When you eat certain colors of food, they're healing for you. So like you have the vitamin C and the orange, and you have the antioxidants and the purple, et cetera, et cetera. But not only do you eat light, you drink light. So this was Dr. Emoto showing you when he went to different water and different countries, this was the structure of some of their water, depending. So it's important to think about what you're consuming. When Matt said, who are you hanging around with? What are you putting in your mouth? What are you doing? Everything comes to light. Oh, you can do it. I know you can do it. If I talk to it nicer, if I go up and give it a kiss. Little feminine female energy. There we go. Thank you. So when we think of the human alchemy, and it responds to the entire light spectrum. So I want you to think that sound heals, color heals, and that's important. So think about this. If you want to know the secrets of the universe, everything is vibrating, everything is doing it. I put that as a sound system so you kind of understood that we are in that boom box. There's your state of mind. There's your, oh, this is too quick for me sometimes. Okay, just keep the idea. That was just showing you the frequency of a brain frequency, the frequency of water, and the frequency of planets it was showing. So this is going back to the idea that we're taking it back to one. And then there's one core principle that Walter wanted you to know, that spirit and ether are interchangeable in the substance of the mind. There again, there are no parts of the mind that are separate. So when you look at water, when you look at your brain, when you look at the universe, It's all part of the universal supply of flow through our universal source. And he's basically saying, if you're going to think in a higher octave, think with God. Think, go out of your space. Otherwise, here's what we get fixed into. Is this your source? Who's telling your vision? Who's programming you? And this is matter frozen, but it's also man's lower octave. When we actually abdicate ourselves to having something or someone else tell us how to think, that's not where genius comes. So he's asking you, man must learn to think in light with God. In the inner mind, as an ecstatic mind knows the real light, that he is one with the light. He is not deceived by the illusions. This is interesting. Oh, no, you got to see that one. I got to go back. Okay, see this? Now I think this is one hair strand. One hair strand receiving information. So you see how it's dendritical, how it comes in waves and actually floods out? That is what's happening to us in this room. That's just one strand of hair. And what's very funny, I did a whole issue with this gentleman who did all this research. I think it turned out to be like 130 pages. And I went into Samson and Delilah, and it showed the power of the hair because it's an antenna. We don't think of it that way, but it is. And I think that is remarkable. A lot of the magazines that I have are free online. Go look at them. They're magnificent. There are hundreds of people I've worked with over the years. It's sciencetosage.com. This whole issue on the hair, I even show it what it looks like when your hair is drunk. The wave function totally goes away. It gets very chaotic. And it's like you think you're thinking, but it's not, like you're all scrambled mess. And there's lots of videos and a lot of this stuff. Oh, come on, you can do it. So I wanted you to think, we are basically in this universal motion picture. We're putting our light on the screen where, all of it is an effect, cause and effect of who and what we are. I know my time is running out, but I want you to think you are nothing but bit players. So we're nothing but particles of light moving, pulsating in that stream. So think about that. It's gonna do it. Oh, you behave. There it goes. So my question is, which matrix are you in? Which box are you in? So when you think of this, is somebody basically telling you what to think? Are you working with the mind of God? Do you get those aha moments? Do you get the downloads? Are you inspired? So one way I thought about it, when we have our lens and we look at a Rubik's Cube, this is a guy's work over here, which is Marco Rodin. And Rodin's work showed me that each one of those squares is like a color. And every time we choose, not just to be stuck in the matrix of what people are telling us and being reactive, because that's part of what Walter Russell talks about in this electric universe, where all our senses are electric. You can move the cube. You don't have to stay in that matrix. You can work with God. And I think that's one way of thinking of it. As he says, all forms of thought are thought forms. All thinking is creative thinking. All thinking is creating that which it's thinking. And so when we think of ourselves as particles and waves, in that way we can actually imagine that we can move the matter. Our chemistry is how we think. It's a state, it's literally a state of mind. And most people think your DNA is fixed, but it's nothing but a light system. 90% of it is not fixed. And the information that you move in your state is by what you put yourself around. Only 10% is your framework. That's a good way of thinking of it. I'm almost done here. So I want you to think about what you put in, what you're projecting, and what you put out. So your eyes are taking things in and then pushing them back out to, because we could all be in this room, but you'll focus on one or two people during the course of the weekend. Why them? And you have to ask yourself, what part of the mirror are they being for you? So when we know our knowing exceeds our sensing, which means just don't be reactive, don't be deceived by the illusions of that certain box. Just know that all your senses are electric, and what's in charge and who's in charge. And literally, the word is charge. What activates you, what doesn't activate you. And again, the brain, it's only replaying a program. You think your brain is thinking, Walter Russell would say it's not. You're just being programmed and reactive. So again, by working with the light and the mind of God and going to the light, you'll get much more downloads, more inspiration. Oh, one with the force. Okay, okay, that was showing your hair stand up, but I'm going to show you this. This is what happens in the field, whether you know it or not. This is ant to ant. This is field to field. We don't see it, but we feel it. We feel the vibe. So when you think of the matrix, think about when you're walking in, what's getting you charged. That's it. You can feel that. You don't really see it, but you feel it. So here's the question right now we have at this time in history. Can we afford to ignore the principles which actually will revolutionize man's concept of himself, his world, his universe, and the human problems? Right now, they're trying hard, so hard, to make us divided. And this is an invitation for everybody to say, hey, we are one. We may be all bands of different colors or different stripes within the lines of these intersections, but at the end of the day, we're all light. And I think that's what I'd like to leave the message with. When I looked into that box, that was it. Knowledge is cosmic. It does not evolve or unfold in a man. Man understands to the awareness of and gradually discovers, to me, the magnificence of what it is. So, thank you for listening.